What's going on, fight fans? Welcome to the Total Takedown for UFC 319. We're talking overs and we're talking unders. We're trying to give you a different angle to make some money on this week's fights. Do me a favor, hit that like button, get subscribed if you haven't yet, and let's get on into this thing. The first total I want to talk to you about is Bryan Battle taking on Rosado. If you guys knew, I was going to talk to you about this one. The total is sitting at 2.5, and it's right about pick'em. You're seeing ever slight juice to the under here on this 2.5. And I think that makes sense. Bryan Battle is a guy who we've seen be a dramatic finisher in the UFC before. Now he's moving up to 185 pounds. Rosado also has previously fought at 170 pounds. So I think the up in weight class is good for both guys. We know Nursultan's got that absolute pin missile of a right hand. We know he's got that Kimura. The Kimura ain't happening, but he's got it. So there's submission upside, there's knockout upside. We've seen Bryan Battle get cracked before. I think his durability is going to be a little bit improved up at 185. Battle was really just simply killing himself to get down to 170 pounds. But I think his grappling offensively and probably his power are things that are going to be improved up at 185 pounds. And frankly, if his gas tank is better up at 185 pounds. We've seen guys like Joaquin Buckley get on top of Rosado and just kind of do whatever they wanted to. A guy like Bryan Battle will be hunting submissions, will be attacking ground and pound. I think this fight finishes one way or the other. Now, the 2.5, obviously a little bit scary. You could pay up a bit and play the fight doesn't go the distance, but in this fight, I like violence. I do want to bring to your attention just for a minute here, Barbosza and Dakar close. I don't have a pick on this one. I don't want to tell you guys I like a side one way or the other, but the number scares me. The over 2.5 is about minus 155 or so. The under 2.5, you're getting plus 120-ish. And this is one of those ones where I think round 3 is super live for both guys. I think Barbosza up at 155 could be outmatched these days. He's spent years and years and years cutting down to 145 pounds. Who knows what toll that took on his body, the muscle mass that he left behind trying to make that weight. Who knows if he's going to be as big, physical, or strong as he ever was at 155 pounds. Dakar could just be too much for him at this stage of his career. He's a whole lot older. And on the flip side of that, we have seen Dakar close, gas out, get tired, slow down, and drop his hands regularly. Now, there's been fights where people have not been able to make him pay for that, but someone like Barbosza absolutely will. So I actually kind of like the round 3 sprinkle. I kind of think the fight may not make it the full distance, but the 2.5 here is treacherous, and that's why I want to tell you guys, this is an avoid for me. I wouldn't be betting under 2.5, even at plus money, because I think it could get close. You really could see that highlight reel, like last 2 minutes of the fight type of finish here in this one, in my opinion. So just be careful out there. Be careful in those gambling streets. Jessica Andrade versus Lupi Godinez is one I want to talk about. Under 2.5 is all the way up to like plus 240, plus 250. It's very juiced up. We're talking women's MMA. We know Lupi is very tough and very durable. However, she's not fought many people who have the hand speed and punching power of someone like Jessica Andrade. We know Andrade can be knocked out. We know Andrade can be taken down and submitted, and those are both things that Lupi Godinez could do as well. Lupi's never fought this caliber of an opponent. She's never gotten a step up in competition like this, so it's a levels jump for her, and both women I think are susceptible. So because of that, I've got like this sneaky sensation that there might be violence in this fight, whether it's Lupi using the blueprint, taking Andrade down and submitting her like so many others have done recently, or whether it's Lupi finding out that she is just not on this level and having to deal with the fury of Andrade for 15 minutes. I'm not sure she can make it the full 15 if that's the case. Frankly, guys, there's a third option here. We have seen Andrade run face first into punches before, and Lupi's boxing has been improving. She could knock her out too. She could. So like there's a lot of ways that this under could possibly hit. I don't mind it if you want to just sprinkle. Chase Hooper and Alexander the Great Ape Hernandez. 2.5 total. Initially at the beginning of the week when this number dropped, I noticed that the over was slightly juiced. The under is now slightly juiced, and I find that intriguing. Now, it's a Chase Hooper fight, so violence is always on the table. But the thing that's getting me about this one is win, lose, or draw. Alexander Hernandez has been surviving to a decision. Jim Miller, decision. Bill Algeo, decision. Damon Jackson, split decision. Hubbard, split decision. Hollabaugh, decision. Like, I know Chase Hooper is a step up in competition, theoretically, from the majority of those people that I just listed, right? And we know Chase Hooper is all about the submissions, the knees, the elbows. But Chase Hooper is not the most physical dominant wrestler you've ever seen. He's a jiu-jitsu player. He looks to sweep. He looks to reverse. He looks to take your back. We saw that in, like the Jim Miller fight where he's working on his striking. He's fine to play at range now these days, but he's also not a one-hitter quitter. He's a volume guy. He's a death by 1,000 paper cuts type of guy. I feel like this fight looks a lot like Alexander Hernandez's fight with someone like Damon Jackson or someone like Bill Algeo, where he puts up just enough effort. He can control this skinny, strangly little white boy for just long enough for his gas tank not to run on empty, and we get a decision. I actually lean to the over here. I know the move for the number has gone towards the under. I actually think this is an over waiting to happen because I do think the wrestling advantage for Alexander Hernandez is his path to victory here. And I don't know that Chase Hooper is going to be strong and physical enough to get on top of a guy like this, at least until he's completely death-gassed, to be able to put him away. And even if he's dropping elbows and stuff like that, you're gonna see Hernandez grab an ankle. You're gonna see him grab a leg and try to get on top, try to slow the pace of the fight down. He seems to be very, very good at that. It works for him. So I actually kind of like Chase Hooper by decision here. Round 3 sprinkle just for safety's sake, but over 2.5 would be the pick. I don't like it at slight chalk or slight juice. The even money always freaks me out on these 2.5s, but I lean towards the over here. Next up, Gerald Mirshard and Michael Oluk 1.5 total, under 1.5 minus 135, over 1.5 is plus 105. Now we talked about Oluk joining the Fighting Nerds. We know that's where he's at now. He's probably making improvements there, yada yada yada, right? But Gerald Mirshard is still Gerald Mirshard, and Oluk always gets submitted. That's the end all be all here. This thing has violence written all over it, and I don't think that Gerald Mirshard is going to be able to survive the onslaught of Michal Oluk to get to round 3 like he usually needs to, right? If you wait for this man to tire out, like that's going to happen early. It's going to be a lot like the Holland fight where he gives up the armbar quickly because he makes a mistake or he slows down after having his foot on the gas. I think we see good old Oluk, and that probably means a round 1 KO or maybe an early round 2 submission for Gerald. Under 1.5 at minus 135 makes a ton of sense to me. Tim Elliott and Kai Asakura. This one's interesting because we haven't seen Kai since his title shot. We don't know a whole lot about how he's going to look in the UFC. Elliott is kind of your wish version, right, of Alexander Pantoja, so he's going to look to wrestle. He's going to look to grapple. I think that probably extends the fight a little bit. Tim Elliott did look up at the presser yesterday looking like he needed Wilson, the volleyball. That's a Castaway reference. You guys are probably too young for that. Over 2.5. It's right around the minus 130, minus 135 range, and I actually think that makes some sense here because Tim Elliott is a very, very difficult person to finish. He's very tough to put away. Now, Kai is absolutely massive, but I'm not sure he's going to have the grappling chops to be able to hang in there with someone like Tim Elliott with his foot on the gas the entire time when it comes to the wrestling. I do think that they probably end up nodding Kai Asakura over Tim Elliott, damage versus control, etc., that kind of thing. This seems like a setup fight to get Kai back on the path, but I'm not entirely certain that we're going to see Kai just completely flatlining a guy like Tim Elliott when that's not something we've ever really seen before. So again, lean towards the over, even though Kai by KO seems like the predominant, thought that we might have here. Lerone Murphy and Aaron Pico. 2.5 total. This over 2.5 is minus 215. And I get that the over makes a ton of sense here to me. Lerone Murphy, Aaron Pico. Pico's getting a massive step up in competition, jumping right into the deep end. Lerone Murphy, undefeated in the UFC. He's been the dark horse in this weight class for a long time. This is not going to be an easy fight. He's proven over his last couple fights, taking out contenders and stuff like that. It hasn't always been easy for him, but he always gets in there and competes. This is a 15-minute fight, not a 25-minute fight. So unless Pico, we know he's got crazy power, right? We know he's got good, solid power, good, solid boxing, but he's a very, very good wrestler. Unless he is able to Chuck Liddell this, use that wrestling in reverse, force Murphy to stand and bang with him. Like, I could see Aaron maybe potentially landing a KO in that circumstance, but any otherwise way this fight plays out, where there's grappling one way or the other, I think it gets extended because of that. So I think the over makes a ton of sense here, and I think that Pico gets pushed to the limit in his very first UFC fight, regardless of who wins. I expect the judges to get involved. Let's talk about the main event real quick here. Dricus du Plessis and Khamzat Chamayv. Total set at 2.5, and it's a pick'em here, baby. They are ever so slightly shading this thing towards the under, it looks like, for violence, and with Khamzat's reputation, that makes a ton of sense. I talked about this on the Monday show, though. I actually think this is a buck the trend type of spot, and maybe we look towards an over. Santino did drop a little nugget for us on the podcast. If you guys haven't watched that, it's a really good one. You should go check it out. I had not one but two guests for you on Monday. Santino dropped a little nugget that apparently Khamzat is working with TJ Dillashaw's strength and conditioning team for this one. And if you guys remember, TJ Dillashaw's ungodly cardio was something that everyone spoke about. It was Marab levels. It was unnatural. Nobody knew how it had happened. So if they get their mitts on a guy like Khamzat, he's going to have way more gas than anybody's ever expected him to. So everyone thinks it's going to be Chamayv early, he slows down, Dricus late. I actually think this might be a little slower pace than we've seen from Khamzat before because he trusts his cardio a little bit more. And I think Dricus, who we know can catch a second wind, a third wind, he's in a dogfight every single time out there, I think he will be able to hang with Khamzat early in the fight, meaning this thing gets extended, and then we get these guys really going toe-to-toe. We have seen Khamzat go deeper into fights. You know, he fought Kamaru Usman, he went to a decision. He fought Burns, he went to a decision. So, like, there is proof in the pudding that Khamzat can go deeper into his UFC fights if he has to. So I do think this is a fight where that potentially could take place, and I'm actually leaning towards the over here on the 2.5. It's not my favorite thing in the whole world, having these two monsters, the way they just dead people suddenly and viciously, going up and over 15 minutes. It sounds a little wild. It's very nerve-wracking, but I think that's the way to look at the main event here. I don't think this is going to be a round one fight like some of Khamzat's previous ones. That's the Total Takedown, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. Hit that like button, get subscribed, and do me a favor, hit some of these links in the description below. We'll see you for hot props in a minute.